Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first Charlie India Talk Sports show. I'm your host, Charlie India. This is how I watch sports. Gotta love sports. It's just the best thing that unites us and helps us all hang out together. The premise of the show is going to be simple. Obviously, we're going to talk sports, but we're going to be open to talk about anything. The main episode is going to be sports. The things I find funny about them, the things I find not so funny about them. We'll be recording in various locations. Obviously, we're in the Charlie India studios at the Charlie India Man Cave right now, and it's a good place to be. Sometimes we'll be out on the road. You never know what's going to be happening out there. So grab your coat, grab your beer. Let's go see what's going on in sports right now. And I don't know why I do this all the time, but as I've started recording this show, I find out that I do this a lot. So just deal with it. It's like everything else. The Super Bowl just ended. Hallelujah. And I know that if you're a sports fan at all, if you're watching this show or anything else, you saw the Super Bowl. You got your own thoughts about it. You don't need me, on and droning on. The only thing I want to say about it is whether you love them or you hate them, every sports fan should at least appreciate the New England Patriots. And it's just odd, we're in that era. When you're in the era of what's going on, you don't get to appreciate it because they're playing against your teams. They're winning the Super Bowls. They're doing what it takes to make it to where we're not in there and our teams aren't in there. But let me give you a reference point of how this is going. If you have kids of your own, or if you've ever dated a smoking hot woman who's just kind of out of your league, don't know why she's with you, but you are and you're having a good time, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the day-to-day, taking the kids here, doing this with her. Oh, my God, I got to go shopping with her again. To see the big picture of what a good thing you have going on at that time. Well, then one day, the kids are grown and gone. The wife, the hot girlfriend, has woken up and realized, oh, what was I thinking? She's with the pool boy now, and it's not quite as good as it was. You have to kind of stop and think, kind of get over yourself for just a little bit before you can actually look back and realize how good a thing you had. And that's what we're experiencing right now with the Patriots. You get so wrapped up in hating Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady, well, frankly, he's living the life most of us would like to have. What's wrong with him? He's too good looking. He's too tall. He's got too much money. He's got too hot of women hanging out with him. I don't know. That's my thing. But even the Patriots on other angles, when you look at Spygate and Deflategate, or in my case, the fact that they play in the same division as my Dolphins and make it to where constantly year in and year out for most of my life, we're always playing for a wild card spot because we're not going to beat New England. That's why I can't stand them. But you got to think now that what we're seeing out of New England is rivaling the 49ers with Joe Montana, the Pittsburgh Steelers with Terry Bradshaw. And we look back at those teams and we just love them. Oh, they were perfect. Those were the guys, all this kind of stuff, because we can look back on it for a little while. We haven't had a chance to look back on the Patriots and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick because it's going on right now. So what I'm going to tell you, or what I'm going to recommend to you, is a Charlie India phrase. We're going to call it hate, but appreciate. And when I say hate, I don't mean go up to Boston and burn down any buildings or anything. I mean sports hate. Whenever you hear me say I hate something or I hate somebody on this show, it's going to be from a sports perspective. I'm not going to go burn down Tom Brady's house. Don't you go do it either. All right? But it's okay to hate him in the moment, in that sports moment. But let's just keep it at that and realize that it's sports. But I'm going to tell you, 20 years from now, you're going to be looking back at this team and telling your grandkids that you got to see all this stuff that Tom Brady and this team are doing. And you're going to have to, because your kids are going to be watching the Super Bowl and they're going to be going, hey, who's that guy on the Papa John's commercial? Why has he got 19 Super Bowl rings? And you're going I saw him play. He was all right, But anyway, that was the Super Bowl. It was what it was. Great game. Good. I was rooting for New England, as much as I hate to. We'll talk about that on another show. Although the games are gone for a while, we all know football season never ends. Combines are getting ready to go, and everybody's looking to see how their team's going to get better or get worse. The big question right now is with the Dallas Cowboys. How are they going to be able to keep both DeMarco Murray and Dez Bryant? To a man on the talking heads behind me, they are saying that they have to keep Dez Bryant. And how can you disagree with that? I mean, number 88 is a superhuman freak show of an athlete who can change a game every single time he touches the ball. The world defenses revolve around him. This guy has a talent. You don't see stuff like this every day, and he doesn't come along, and you know Dallas has to keep him going. However, on this show, we're going to use what I like to call Charlie India logic. Now, the very first thing to know about Charlie India logic, it may not even be logical. It may not even make sense. It may be totally 100% wrong. But the idea behind the CI logic is to get you to think for yourself. Don't just listen to what the talking heads behind me are saying. Think for yourself. So let's throw out a little Charlie India logic and, let's see what happens. And before we go, I'm not even saying that I believe what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, just to make you think a little bit. First things we do, what I always like to do, again, don't come at me weak. Don't come at me with, Dallas sucks or whatever your favorite team is. You just got to come at me strong. So let's go look at some numbers. First numbers for Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant caught 88 passes for 1,320 yards last year. That's a whole lot of moving the ball down the field. And the thing about Dez is any one of those 88 that he caught could have been run in for a touchdown or a big play at any time. 16 of them, in fact, were run in for touchdowns. He caught 16 touchdown passes. So you got 88 catches, 1,320 yards, 16 TDs. That's pretty impressive year. And the way he did it, again, he did it against him being the focal point of the defense. All the defense were geared to stopping this guy as far as the pass receiving part of the game. So he did it against some heavy-duty competition, and he did it in spectacular fashion. Like I said, anytime he made a catch, it could go all the way. So as we go along with the Charlie India logic segment, don't think we're dissing Dez Bryant at all. He's one of, if not the best. Sorry, Calvin Murphy. You guys can argue about that later. DeMarco Murray, however, let's take a look at his numbers. DeMarco carried the ball 392 times for 1,845 yards. That's a whole lot of moving the ball down the field, too. He managed to score 13 touchdowns. He also caught 57 passes for 416 yards. That gives him a total, let's do Charlie India math here, that gives him a total of 449 touches and 2,261 yards with 13 touchdowns. So let's go back, let's compare numbers. 88 touches, 1,320 yards, 449 touches, 2,261 yards. 16 TDs, 13 TDs. All right? But now what you're saying, I know what you're saying. Charlie. Dez opens up the field for the running game. And by that, don't forget that this year, since they know that, we got the best offensive line out there, that Dallas was a running team. And you know what? Yeah, they are. Just something to think about. Now, the other thing about this, and let's go, and you've said this. I know you have. If you said it all, unless you're a Dallas Cowboy diehard fan, every conversation that about the Dallas Cowboys starts the same way. Romo sucks! Romo sucks! And what for Romo would have 10 championships, would be the best team. Anybody, I can do better than Romo. Okay. I hate when people do that. But let's just say that you're right. Let's just say that Romo sucks. He doesn't, but let's say he does. Let's just say Romo sucks, all right? So why would you keep the guy that has to have Romo sucks throwing the ball, as opposed to the guy that Romo just hands it off to and he gets his job done that way? Kind of see where I'm getting at now? Not quite as easy a decision as it was 2 minutes ago. But again, this is me just goofing off and having some fun. This is thinking outside the box a little bit. I hate that phrase because why would you ever want to be outside the box when the box is warm and cozy? But anyway, this is the kind of thinking that goes into this process, and this is the kind of stuff that if you're starting to think for yourself, just something to look at. Now, They got to keep them both. They got to keep Dez. He's the player. He's the freak show. They're going to put a franchise tag on him and screw this whole thing up. That's for later on down the road. But it's just a discussion that we can have now when the games aren't going on. Have a little off-season fun with the Dallas Cowboys. They need to keep them both. They'll find a way to work it out. Don't get scared. It'll be just fine. Since this is going to be a sports show, we're going to talk about them all. Yeah. Let's hit boxing. See, hit, huh? Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. met a few weeks ago to finally get talk started on having the super fight that all of boxing has been waiting for. Well, let me tell you something, boys. You're too late. You're just too late. You've avoided this fight too long, Floyd Mayweather. Sorry about you. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, this would have been the mega event of all time. But, I mean, now look where we're at. Pac-Man is the governor of Taco Bell or something, and you know, Mayweather's getting majority decisions, and he's 40 or whatever, however old he is. Floyd, you just ducked this fight too long. I'm sorry, you can say what you want. You had a chance, and it was all up to you because you are the money-making machine in this operation. You ducked this brother too long, and now I don't care. You know, Mayweather is the reason that me, as a lifetime boxing fan, I don't buy boxing pay-per-views anymore. In his last 12 fights over the last 9.5 years, Floyd Mayweather Jr. has had 12 matches. 10 of them, 10 out of 12, went all the way to the final round, to the judges' scorecard, and 2 of his last 3 have been mixed decisions, majority decisions. Sorry about that. It is true that nobody can get through his defenses. However, it's also true you can't hit anybody through his defenses. And when I'm paid to see a fight, I want to see you hit somebody. I want to see you hit somebody a lot. I want to see you hit them often. I want you to see you to hit them hard. I don't want a judge to have a job to do in a boxing match. I hate it. So I got tired of Floyd's fights. Didn't care anymore. Don't buy him anymore. The last time I paid for a Mayweather fight, he was fighting a Latin dude named Guerrero, and I'd never heard of Guerrero. And at that point, I was already starting to get tired of watching one after another of these 12 rounds, tap, snooze fest that Mayweather was putting out, and it's, taking my $75 away. So I go ahead and bought this last one because, surely, this guy, Floyd's going to have to do something against this guy. And here we go, tap, duck. No punches. It wasn't just me. I know, because I'm kind of a hard ass sometimes. You'll know that as we go along. But I mean, by the 6th round, the fans were openly booing at the lack of aggression in this fight. Was all you got. Okay? By the 9th round, I really thought that chairs were going to be coming into the ring. Things were going to happen because the fans were getting mad. And man, by the 12th round, I couldn't even hear the bell go off at the end of the 12th round. The booing and screaming was so bad. And at the end of the fight, Mayweather runs over to Guerrero. Now, Guerrero's obviously mad. He knew he couldn't hit him. He knew he wasn't hit. Neither one of them needed a shower after the fight. But he couldn't hit him. There was no action going on. Fans are booing. This was his first big shot on HBO or Star, whatever, and Showtime, and couldn't get it going. He was mad. And Mayweather pulls him real close and he says, "Hey, we put on a good show. Really? Then why is everybody booing? Why am I yelling at the TV? Kind of like I'm doing now. It cost me $75 to see nothing. I get more action in a fight between me and Mrs. India. No punches, just fighting." And you didn't, brother. You didn't put on a good show. And besides that, if I want to see a good show, I'll go see David Copperfield play Vegas. I paid for a fight. I wanted to see a fight. And you didn't fight. It wasn't a good show. That was the last boxing pay-per-view that I ever bought, and it's the last one that I will buy until a young killer or a killer like young Mike Tyson comes along. Because when Mike fought when he was young, brother, you knew that somebody's going to be on the mat. Sometimes it was them, sometimes it was him. You never knew. But I believe the fight's been set for, I know the fight's been set for May 2nd, and it will be one of the biggest events in the sporting of this year because the media is going to tell us that it's going to be, and they're going to tell us we're going to die if we don't see this fight. Let old Uncle Charlie tell you a secret. You won't die. I promise. If you don't buy the fight, you won't die. I promise. But You're going to want to see it as much as I would have rather have seen it 4 or 5 years ago. I want to see it, but here's what we'll do. I got an idea. Don't buy it at home. Okay, don't spend the $100 to buy it at home. Go to a sports bar, pay the $10 cover that they have to, or $20 cover, whatever it is they charge you for this fight. You've already saved $80. You're ahead. Now, take the $80, go buy you some chicken wings, buy you a couple cold ones, flirt with the server, at least that way when the fight's over and it goes to the judge's card, and it will, and they award Mayweather the unanimous decision because there was actually no real fighting in the fight, and there won't be. At least you had a good night out in the town, you got some wings, got some cold ones, and you might even get the number of the server that you were dealing with, because that's going to be the best thing that comes out of that night. I'm sorry, man. It's just 5 years ago, boys. Should have done it 5 years ago. Moving on. The NBA All-Star Game was last weekend, and with its plethora of events, the celebrity game, the three-point shootout, the dunk contest, the skills competition, and all that stuff. I love the idea of an All-Star Game. I do. I think it would be great to, the best of the best get together and duke it out to see who's the best in the West and who's the best in the East. Ha, ha, ha. Unfortunately, like a Mayweather fight, they don't duke it out in an All-Star Game. They just don't. And also like a Mayweather fight, at the end of the game, they're going to run to each other. Hey, we put on a good show. We put on a good show. Except in this case, they'll be right. But the NBA game, it's full of highlights. It's full of everything else. And I love basketball. You'll find out basketball is my favorite sport. But these All-Star games, I don't get. I don't enjoy. When you put in, I love a nice high-scoring game. Both teams getting a little bit over 100, we're good with. But when you put in the first team to 200 points wins rule, it kind of makes the game like that fireworks show that just won't end. At first you're and you're on, you're looking up, you're having a good time, and then it just goes on. There's red, there's green, there's another red, there's blue. Yeah, and eventually, you find yourself getting bored with it or used to it, and now you're, looking for the beer vendor or checking out the hot girls in the crowd, and finally there's enough going on at the end that you figure, oh, this must be the finale, I better start watching again. And that's kind of what the All-Star Game is to me. Of all the All-Star games, it is the most fun to watch. Again, maybe because basketball is my favorite sport, but saying that the NBA All-Star Game is the best one to watch is kind of like saying it's the best-looking ugly girl at the bar. She's still ugly. As goofy as the NBA All-Star Game is, the NFL version, the Pro Bowl, is worse. The Pro Bowl. How do you watch this thing? With all the rules that are put in place to keep these guys from getting hurt. And I get it. You don't want anybody getting hurt during an All-Star game after the season, pretty much over. And everything like that. I get it. But with all those rules put in place, watching the Pro Bowl is kind of like watching a 35 and over flag football game. It's not bad. But the game itself isn't the worst part. The worst part to me of the Pro Bowl is the way they've moved it up to before the Super Bowl, which gives you something to watch that week if you have to watch something. But the idea that your Pro Bowl doesn't have the players from the two teams who are competing for your Super Bowl in it takes so much away for it. So like this year, so you're telling me that Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman aren't going to be there. And that's your highlight Super Bowl, All-Star game. It's just kind of a joke. I just don't get it. But anyway, it is an All-Star game, and what are we going to do with that? But here we go. The biggest joke of all. I know you guys are going to hate me for this. The baseball All-Star game. Again, it's not the game. It's not the sport that's ridiculous. But it's the fact that the game that no one cares about determines the home field advantage for the World Series. I have never heard of anything so ridiculous in my sports life. And trust me, I saw Trent Dilfer win a Super Bowl and Dan Marino not. So I know some stupid things happen in sports. I mean, the idea that two teams can play all year, one team, and they both make it to the World Series, and one team has 25 wins more than the other, but because of the All-Star game, that's right, the All-Star game, the 25 extra wins that you worked so hard to get, out the window, baby. Home field over this way. That makes the All-Star game. Wow. That makes absolutely no sense to me. And the fact that they had to do something to make it more entertaining or mean something means maybe it wasn't meaningful to begin with. So, I'm not a fan of any All-Star games, but they make money, give me something to talk about, so what the heck, I guess we'll just have to put up with them. And even though the games are just getting back from the NBA All-Star break, there's still plenty going on in the NBA. Kobe Bryant has had to shut it down due to injury again. Last year he played 6 whole games, and the year before that he was out early as well. Let me say this now. I am a huge, well, not as big as I used to be, but during my, I'm old. So when I was younger, which was a long time, I was a big Lakers fan. I mean, West and Chamberlain, Magic and Jabbar. Oh my God, Showtime Lakers, to me, to this day, was still the best basketball I've ever seen. Loved the Showtime Lakers. And even now, or even then, Kobe and Shaq. I still believe Kobe and Shaq could have won 10 championships if Kobe could have figured out some way to get over himself and get along with the most dominant player ever and the best thing since Michael Jordan. They would have done it. They could have done it. But they couldn't. They didn't. They still got 3, but they could have had 10. So now Kobe's in the news complaining that he's tired of people calling him selfish and not realizing the great sacrifices he made, like playing with Shaq for 3 championships. Well, Kobe, here's a clue, brother. If it walks like a duck and it goes to the bank like a duck. He needs to realize that time catches up with all of us, and somebody just needs to tell Kobe, no, you're not the Black Mamba now. You were great. You're not in the elite of the game anymore. And if he wants to take his ball and go play for another team, let him. Name a team that, he could go to that he'd make him a contender. Not at this stage of his game. Kobe's 36 and has been in the league for 18 years. Every man knows about the time you hit 35 or so, things start to change. When you're 22 and you sprain your ankle, man, you sit down, you take a little bit of game off, you pull it up, shoe off, let your friends come over and go, oh my gosh, look at that, it's horrible, it's black, it's blue, it's gray, it's horrible. Yeah, then you laugh a little bit, rub some ice on it, you can play the next game. You're fine. You do that same thing when you're 35. Let me tell you, you may as well buy shoes that are the size of your ankles when they're swollen, because they ain't going to go down no more. That's just the way it is. And that limp that you got from the sprained ankle when you're 35 or over, that's not a limp. That's the way you're going to be walking from now on. You just have to deal with it. And by being the elite athlete, and trust me, early Kobe, mid Kobe, even up until the last 3 years, old Kobe, elite, by far elite athlete, he has put his body through 1,000,000 times. All NBA players, all football players, baseball, and you kind of stand out in the field. But, the real sports, when you're playing those, you put your body through so much and everything else that it's 1,000,000 times worse than it is for the normal guy when he turns 35. Kobe has made $75 million over the last 3 years to play a handful of games and keep the Lakers from having any money to get somebody to put around him. Because now, Kobe, you need people around you. It's just that stage of your career. If Kobe comes back to the $25 million that he's due next year, after the way it's been for the past 3, and what it will probably be for this next year, if he comes back and takes that $25 million, I really hope that the Lakers' first game is in Denver against the Nuggets, because Kobe's already been tried for rape in Denver once already and got away with it. So, anyway, speaking of all-star teams, finally something to be happy about. Let America smile. How about my Kentucky Wildcats? Yeah, baby doll. Now, since we just met, let me tell you what I mean when I say by my Wildcats. I am originally from right where West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky all meet. As you have probably figured out by now, I'm old. So this may be news to you and the folks of your age, but there was a time when we didn't have ESPN and 24-hour, whether you want it or not, coverage of every single event that's ever been played. We didn't have all that. We actually went out and played sports. It was cool. You should try it. And the thing about it was you could play almost the whole weekend when you had school because the only time you had to stop was to catch the game of the week. And when I say, let me emphasize, the game of the week. The game, you got one. That was all. That was all you got to see all week long was the game of the week. So you played, you stopped long enough to watch the game of the week, and then you went out and you played some more. Because you couldn't, you had to watch it when it was on because we didn't have DVRs, we didn't have anything. You had to do it when it was then. And, it's what we did during the week. Hey, here's something funny. During the week, after the late night show, which Jimmy Fallon, before that Jay Leno, and this was back when Johnny Carson was on it, when the late night show went off, the national anthem played across the screen, and for some reason they put a picture of an Indian on the tube, and then the TV went off. That was it. You were done watching TV for the night right after the late night show went off. Now, even for me, that's about the time the West Coast games started getting good, and I'm all into that kind of nonsense. But that was what you got, So, but even in the dark ages, now this is cool. This will tell you how much Kentucky basketball means to people. Even in the dark ages, they would tape the shows, or they would show the games on tape delay, which means at 11:30 at night, you would get to watch the game that had happened already. And it wasn't live. Oh my God, you never got to see them live, but they were tape delayed. And here's where respect comes in. And I got to pull this up because it was really cool. The respect came in that even though, let's say the game was on ABC, all right, the sportscasters for NBC and CBS would not ruin it for you. They would tell you, hey, we're getting ready to talk about the Kentucky game. It's already over. You're going to watch it. But if you don't want to know, leave the room. Shut up. Don't listen to the TV. And then they would tell you the highlights and the scores and all the things that they had of the game. And then they would give you a signal. Okay, you can listen now, and everything else. That was the opposing networks who could have just run the whole thing for everybody. But they didn't, and that was the respect that we had. But that's how deeply I'm entrenched into the Kentucky game. My first recollection of being grown up was I got to stay up and watch the 11:30 game on a school night while my parents and my family were all in bed. I was grown up. I was a man then. And that's how much that kind of game and that kind of team and that kind of mentality rattles through you all the way through. I've been a win, lose, or draw Kentucky fan for a very long time. Kentucky's currently 26-0, the best ever start for the program that has more wins than any other college basketball program. All the heads are talking about the possibility of Kentucky going undefeated. Now, when the season first started, I've seen a lot of basketball seasons. When the season first started, I said, undefeated? Are you crazy? No way. Nobody's going to go undefeated now, not with the players that you have and all this kind of stuff. And I said, championship? Oh, yeah, sure, we can win a championship. I get that. But undefeated? No. However, although I'm not driving this bus, I am kind of hanging on the side by the rails to ride on the bus of Kentucky going undefeated. Now, the main premise of this show is going to be a fan, but don't be stupid. Don't come at me weak. So don't come at me with Kentucky rules or the Jets suck. They do, but still, right? Come at me with reasons why one or the other is true. So let's take a look at Kentucky. Kentucky has 9 McDonald's All-Americans on it. 9 McDonald's All-Americans. That is more than some schools have scholarship players on their team. Point 1. For a change, the team did not have to be completely rebuilt this year. For the last couple of years, our entire starting 5 plus a couple subs end up going to the NBA draft after 1 year. Several players returned this year from the team that went to the championship game last year. So they have some experience on their side. They are big. Kentucky's a big team. In basketball, the only team taller than the Kentucky Wildcats, the Portland Trail Blazers of the NBA. They're a big bunch of guys. But another thing. They're also shooting from the outside now. Something that they haven't had before because it takes a little bit of time to develop the strength. You're not in high school anymore. Shooting that three-point shot from the distance isn't that much different, but it is different when now there's another 6'6" guy on you. The caliber of player is different from high school to college, and it takes a while to develop getting that shot and that rhythm down. So Kentucky has some outside shooters for a change. Have not had that for the last few years. More reasons why I'm good. But the two biggest reasons that I think they could go all the way are that they play 10 deep. 10 deep, and the option of taking 5 guys off the court and putting 5 completely new guys on the court. A lot of the heads are saying that the only team that can beat Kentucky's starting 5 is Kentucky's second 5. Well, that's good. So, I mean, depth is critical in a situation like this. So if one guy gets in foul trouble or one guy has a bad shooting game, it doesn't hurt a team like Kentucky as bad as it would hurt a team like Duke, who has to rely on just a couple of guys and whoever's going with him. So those are the kind of advantages that Kentucky has. Is the depth, the shooting, the height, the McDonald's All-Americans. But most of all, what gets me the most and why I'm most excited about this team is the defense that they're slapping on teams. They are second in college basketball in block shots. They are holding teams to 35% shooting from the field. If you go into a game and you shoot 35%, odds are you're going to lose. And so Kentucky's defense is consistently holding these teams down to 35%, and they're consistently making these teams lose. That is what I get excited about. The reason they can do that is because of the depth and the platoon system. They can go, we almost said, they can go balls out, playing defense, because they know that in 5 minutes they're going to be on the bench getting a break, and 5 minutes later they're going to be right back in. That depth is going to be something else. And defense are the things that are going to make Kentucky awfully, awfully hard to beat. So if one guy gets in foul trouble, one guy has a bad shooting night, 9 other guys got his back. And that's going to make this team double tough. I don't see it. Now, can Kentucky be beaten? Yes. They've been taking a double overtime by Texas A&M and another overtime game. Both Florida and LSU were in the game with Kentucky till the very last minute. Now, I'm not going to tell you how Kentucky can be beat, because on an internet radio show that I host or co-host with my buddy Ron Mexico, called The Stiff Arm with Ron Mexico, go look it up, I told the New England Patriots how to beat the Seattle Seahawks. And you see how that turned out. So, but I will give you some hints. The hint to beating Kentucky is to have one of your guys, your superstar guy or any guy, go nuts shooting from the outside. That guy that just gets so hot that you can't stop him no matter what. It's happened to us last year. It's happened to us this year. That's part of the key, and your defense has to play like demon dogs to stop this team. Those two combinations, along with some other things I'm not going to tell you about right now, that would be the way to beat Kentucky. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm a little scared to admit this, but I don't see Kentucky losing a game. And I hope I just didn't put the Charlie India jinx on my favorite team. Well, that'll about do it for the first show. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Baseball's getting ready to start. NASCAR, yeah, we're going to talk some racing, is tuning up for its Super Bowl, which for some reason they play the first game of the season instead of the last. Basketball's in full swing with the pros and college. March Madness, my favorite sporting event of them all, is coming up here not too long. But before we go, real quick, if you have something to say about the show, or if you think I'm an idiot, or you just have a topic you want to talk about, whatever, you're just bored, I don't care. You can reach me at charlie.india@yahoo.com. Again, charlie.india, all small case, @yahoo.com. Send me out an email. Let me go. We might hook this thing up with some Twitter and Instagram later. But for now, email me. We'll see what you got. Come up with some good stuff. Don't come up with Charlie India sucks. Tell me why I suck. All right? Anyway, I hope you guys had a good time with this. I know I did. And I will see you next week. We'll try this nonsense all over again. Bye for now.